in courses that already accommodate all qualified Canadian students. The high-demand courses, such as medicine, dentistry, pharmacy, and law, are, for the most part, closed to foreign students. With few exceptions, only Canadian students are admitted. So any Canadian student who can't get into the course of his or her choice is being kept out by lack of space, not by the presence of students from other nations. But that isn't what W5 asked us to believe.
These are first-year medical students registering at the University of Toronto. Thousands of Canadian students who can't get into medicine are forced to study in private foreign schools, while in Canadian schools, almost 400 students are foreign.
Fact. There are not 400 foreign students in Canadian medical schools. There are only 85, and 66 of these are from the United States. Fact. There are only 2 foreign students in first-year medicine at the University of Toronto. All the rest are Canadians.
Engineering and applied science. 20% of the students are foreign.
Fact. In Canadian engineering and applied science courses, only 9.4% of the students are here on student visas. The figures are low because Canada's policy on international students does include quotas and controls in order to avoid the very situation which W5 tried to persuade us to believe was real.
The students enter on special visas, but easily become landed immigrants if they need to, in order to get into courses which restrict enrollment.
Yes. Up until 1973, it was easy for visa students to apply for landed immigrant status. But since 1973, it has been virtually impossible, unless, for example, a revolution overthrows a student's home government and creates a student refugee.
We estimate it will cost Canadians about $1 billion to educate these 100,000 foreign students.
Well, there aren't 100,000 foreign students in Canada, and the cost to Canadians is nowhere near $1 billion. It takes about 1/10 of that amount to educate our visa students, and most of that cost is offset by the money the students bring into Canada and inject into our economy.
It's also argued that foreign students will go home and trade with Canada, but this has never been the case before.
Not according to Statistics Canada. Their reports point out that some international students become leaders in their own countries, and that Canadians do benefit from their attachment to our country and from their understanding of our culture.
Or that Canadian students will benefit from contact with other cultures.
The benefits may be hard to measure, but they're real. The useful knowledge created by the research done by graduate visa students, the cosmopolitan atmosphere that visitors lend to our universities. The true picture isn't all positive, never is. Nobody would argue that the foreign student situation is free of problems. Of course there are problems, and the Chinese community knows that better than anyone. The point is, a more thoughtful, sensitive piece of television journalism could have explored the real difficulties and perhaps helped to resolve them. Instead, we got this kind of exploitive, racist misinformation.
But there are so many Oriental foreign students that they rarely mix with their Canadian classmates. It's as if there are 2 campuses at Canadian universities, foreign and domestic. Certainly the Chinese skit attracted a full house, but not one Canadian student attended.
Not one Canadian. All these students are Canadians, Chinese Canadians. There are no white students present because what W5 showed at this point was an orientation meeting for first-year Chinese Canadian students at the University of Toronto's International Student Centre. W5 violated one of the first principles of responsible journalism by showing one thing and implying that it was another. W5 deplored the idea of a divided campus, but that is exactly what this kind of programming could bring about. The entire item added up to racist propaganda delivered in the name of freedom of speech.
Well, in my view, there should not be freedom of speech to promote race hatred on the airwaves in Canada. And make no mistake about it, this promotes race hatred in a vicious way. There are hundreds of students who do not get into the Faculty of Pharmacy at the University of Toronto, of all races and nationalities. Those students are now walking around blaming Chinese students for their not getting in, and it's an outright lie, and it's a disgusting situation that is built by exactly this kind of program.
I am deeply shocked to think that, after having been born here myself and having lived my entire life here, that a program such as W5 may well consider me or my children to be foreign as well.
The program is polluted, in fact. It is polluted in analysis. It is polluted in assumptions. Things that pollute the environment must be cleaned up.
That is the key to eradicate the pollution of racism. The CTV network has apologized and promised another program to give the true picture in our universities. That may help repair the damage done by the initial telecast, but it's not enough. What's even more important, more vital, is to prevent this kind of thing from happening again. Television journalism must be responsible journalism, and never racist journalism. That is why this presentation is being made to the CRTC, to urge the commissioners to consider how to prevent racism on television and to take action to preserve the integrity of all Canadian communities.